Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? We're tackling vocabulary this time, pulling some really cool stuff from this podcast. It was called Mastering Vocabulary, How to Remember New Words Effectively. Pretty straightforward, but we're going to make it fun.
Yeah, I actually like that title, Mastering Vocabulary. It's funny, the first thing that podcast really stresses is that it's not about, just memorizing a bunch of definitions. It's more like really getting a feel for a word, all the little shades of meaning.
So it's like not just knowing serendipity equals happy accident, but like sensing why it feels so much more, magical than just plain luck.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head. It's that, whoa, I wasn't even looking for this, but it's amazing vibe. Honestly, that's what makes a word stick. It's the difference between just recognizing it and actually using it. Like you own it.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we reach that level with every new word, though? Because they talk about mnemonics, which I love a good memory trick, but sometimes they feel basic.
I hear you. But mnemonics work because of how our brains are wired. We're all about connections. We link new stuff to things we already know, like that example they gave. Ben loves to volunteer for benevolent.
Yeah.
It works because it paints a picture, something our brains grab onto.
So it's not just any old rhyme. It's got to be a connection that, clicks for me.
Yeah.
Something I can picture.
Exactly. It's personal. Maybe for serendipity, you imagine, like walking through a market and bam, you find a book you've always wanted. That happy surprise feeling, that's what nails down the meaning.
I dig it. Okay, and speaking of making it stick, they're big on actually using these words, not just leaving them in a notebook.
Right. Language is meant to be, used. They suggest writing sentences, flashcards, even just saying the word aloud. And the reason those methods are so classic is, well, they work.
Out of all those, I'm always curious about the sentence thing. But isn't that time consuming?
Not really. It's about quality, not quantity. Even one really good sentence can make a huge difference. Remember the example they used? Diligent. She is diligent in completing her assignments. Boom. You not only use the word right, but your brain is actively recalling it, which is super important.
So the more we actively do something with the word, the more it becomes part of our vocabulary.
100%. And then there's this concept of spaced repetition, which sounds a bit intimidating maybe, but it's super effective for learning stuff long term. I've been trying it myself and it's amazing, honestly.
Okay, confession time. Spaced repetition. I know I should be doing it, but the how always trips me up. They mention those time intervals for review, 1 day, 3 days a week, but can we make that simpler? What's the main idea I need to get?
Think of it like taking care of plants. You wouldn't drown them with water all at once, would you? You give them a little, let it soak in, then water again when they need it. Spaced repetition is similar. It's about giving your brain just enough at just the right times so those connections grow strong.
Okay, so strategic brain watering. I could work with that. And luckily, they mentioned there are tools and apps to help, right?
Tons, but honestly, even without a fancy app, just getting the idea of spaced repetition is a game changer. No more cramming. You can learn at a pace that feels good for you.
Phew. All right, this is the part I love. They talk about making vocab learning fun. It shouldn't be a drag, right?
No way. And there are so many fun ways to do it. They mention movies and TV shows with subtitles, word games, and even, get this, learning through songs.
Yes, I learned so much from foreign films with subtitles. It's crazy. Is there a reason that works so well, though?
Well, you're seeing the words in action, hearing them, connecting them to visuals and emotions. It's total immersion. Plus, it doesn't feel like studying, right?
And word games, I'm addicted to crosswords, I admit it. What is it about those that makes them good for vocabulary, though?
Word games, they really make your brain work. They force you to think strategically, consider different options, connect words and ideas. It's a mental workout that also boosts your vocabulary.
They even share a story about learning a new word from a song, which I totally get. Music has this sneaky way of making words stick, right?
It's amazing. Music is so powerful. It taps into our emotions and memories. That connection helps solidify those new words and phrases. It's like the soundtrack to your vocabulary journey.
Love it. So we've got understanding words' nuances, using mnemonics, putting words into practice, spaced repetition, and making it fun. What else is there?
Oh, we can't forget context. Words on their own can be tricky, but put them in a sentence, a paragraph, a story, they come alive.
That's true. Knowing the word gratitude is one thing, but seeing it used in a phrase like, she expressed her gratitude with a heartfelt hug, it's way more powerful.
Exactly. We're wired to learn from stories in real-life situations. That's why they're so big on reading for vocabulary growth. It's like giving your brain a constant feed of context clues.
Gotcha. So we should all be reading more, But what if someone isn't a huge reader? Does it matter what they read? Like, is reading a blog post the same as reading, I don't know, a classic novel?
That's a really good question. And yeah, while any reading will expose you to new words, the type of reading you choose can impact the kind of vocabulary you pick up.
So reading, like, a scientific paper is going to give me different words than reading, say, a historical fiction book.
For sure, a scientific article might have tons of technical terms, while a historical fiction novel might have older language or words specific to that time.
Makes sense. So if someone's trying to improve their vocabulary for their job, like in marketing, they should read marketing stuff, not like fantasy novels.
Exactly. Fantasy novels are fun, but they might not give you the words you need for a marketing meeting.
It's all about being strategic with your reading, huh? And even though we've touched on it already, can we dig more into making reading for vocabulary a more active thing?
You bet. It's easy to just gloss over unfamiliar words when we're reading, especially if we're caught up in the story or whatever, but that's where active reading comes in.
So more than just highlighting words, but like actually doing something with them.
Yes. When you hit a word you don't know, really look at it. Try to guess what it means from the context. Maybe jot it down, or even better, in that vocabulary journal we talked about.
Okay, so instead of just highlighting it on my Kindle, I should write it down, maybe even try using it in a sentence myself.
That's the idea. And even if you think you know a word, double-checking its meaning is never a bad idea. Words can have multiple meanings or subtle nuances that we miss.
Oh, for sure. I can't tell you how many times I thought I knew a word, then looked it up and was like, wait, I only knew like half of what it meant.
Yeah.
Now, before we totally leave reading behind, I want to bring up the vocabulary journal again. I've tried it, but I always give up. Any tips to actually make it stick this time?
I feel you. Life gets busy. But a vocabulary journal can be so helpful, especially when we use it alongside these other techniques.
So how do we make it more than just a word list? How do we make it truly useful?
First, think about how you learn best. Visual person. Maybe do mind maps to connect words. More linear. Organize it alphabetically or by theme. Oh, I like that. It's about making it work for me, not just following some random template.
You got it. And get creative. Use colored pens, sketches, even paste in pictures or articles.
Ooh, like a vision board, but for words. That sounds way more fun than a plain notebook.
That's the point. Right. Make it fun. Make it something you want to use. It's like a treasure chest for your words.
I love that image. So if someone's ready to start their own vocab journal, where should they begin?
Pick a format that feels good. Notebook, document, app, even just a section in your planner. The key is using something you'll actually stick with.
And what should go in it? What are the essentials?
The word and definition, of course. But go further. Try writing your own sentence using the word. Maybe list synonyms, antonyms to really get all the nuances.
So it's about, interacting with the word, not just defining it. What else?
Think about where you found the word. Was it a book, podcast, conversation? Noting the source can help you remember it better. That's smart. It's like a little story for each word. And I like the idea of adding personal stuff, little drawings, notes about how I feel about the word, how I might use it.
Exactly. The more personal it is, the more you'll stick with it. And as you add more words, you might notice patterns, like maybe you're drawn to certain types of words, or you struggle with certain concepts.
So it's not just about vocab, it's about learning how I learn.
Exactly. That self-awareness is super valuable.
Wow, this is like making me totally rethink how I approach vocabulary. It's like all these things, the nuances, the mnemonics, spaced repetition, reading actively, that journal, they all fit together.
They do. It's not about one magic trick. It's about having a system that works for you, using different strategies and stuff.
Okay, so we've covered tons. But before we totally wrap up, I want to go back to the making it fun thing for a sec. We mentioned movies, games, but what are some other creative things we can do?
I'm so glad you asked. Keeping it fun is key. If it's boring, we won't do it. Beyond those things, think about adding vocab to stuff you already love doing.
Ooh, like what? Give me examples.
Okay, so you like cooking. Try a new recipe with weird ingredients you've never heard of. Learn those names, where they come from, even the fancy cooking terms,
I actually love that. I do like trying new recipes. It's like a vocab adventure, but in the kitchen.
Right. And it's not just words, it's food, culture, all that. Or if you're more visual, hit up art museums, photography exhibits, whatever. Really pay attention to those titles, descriptions, even the artist's little blurb.
Good point. I usually skim those, but you're right, they're full of interesting words, all artsy and stuff.
Exactly. And you might even find new artists or styles you never knew about. Connecting words to experiences, it's powerful stuff.
This is making me realize vocabulary is like everywhere, not just in boring textbooks.
It totally is. The more you notice the language around you, the more you learn. It's all around us.
Okay, I'm officially on a mission to find fun vocab stuff.
Yeah.
But for someone just starting out, it can be overwhelming, right? Where do they even begin?
Start small. Don't go crazy trying to learn a zillion words at once. Pick one or two that seem cool and really focus on them, Understand them, use them, make them yours.
So it's quality over quantity.
100%. And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Be patient with yourself, celebrate the small wins, and most importantly, have fun.
I needed to hear that. Learning shouldn't feel like a chore. Now, before we do wrap up, did we miss anything from that podcast?
There was one thing they said that stuck with me, and it goes back to that context thing we talked about. They were really emphasizing how we shouldn't just learn words by themselves, but see how they relate to other words.
Oh, yeah. Like, knowing benevolent is good.
Yeah.
But seeing how it connects to kind, charitable, even its opposite, malevolent, it gives it more depth.
Exactly. It's building a web of words, not just a list of definitions. And one way to do that is by looking at word families and etymology, which is like word history.
Ooh, word families. That takes me back to grade school.
Yeah.
But I see how it applies here.
Think about it. If you know the root bene means good, suddenly you can figure out tons of words. Benefactor, beneficial, benediction.
Whoa, you're right. It's like a code to unlock a whole bunch of vocab.
And etymology, that's fascinating stuff. It's like tracing a word back in time, seeing how it changed, how it connects to other languages, cultures.
I'm picturing a family tree, but for words. It's crazy how much history is in the words we use every day.
I know, right? And knowing that history can make words so much more interesting.
Okay, explore etymology is going on my to-do list. But before we get too lost in word origins, I want to loop back to the journal again.
Sounds good. It's such a useful tool, there are always new ways to use it.
You mentioned themes, but what are some other ways to organize it to make it super effective?
Well, one way is by those word families we were talking about. So a section for bene words, a section for mal words, and so on. It helps you see those connections, reinforces the patterns.
That's so smart. It's like my own mini dictionary, but just for word families.
Right. And another way is by source, where you found the word. So words from that one book go together, words from a specific podcast, and so on. It helps you remember where you learned them, that context thing again.
Ooh, I like that. It's like a little collection of vocab with each section from a different place.
And don't forget visuals, color coding, mind maps, even pasting in pictures or articles.
I'm picturing this super colorful journal, almost like an art project. This is making vocabulary way more fun than I ever thought it could be.
That's what it's all about. Make it your own, find what clicks. There's no right or wrong way. The important thing is you find a system you enjoy and actually use it.
So true. It's easy to get caught up in the shoulds, but in the end, it's about finding what works for me.
Exactly. When we enjoy it, learning becomes an adventure, not a chore,
Okay, I'm ready to totally redo my vocab journal. But before we get too carried away, can we address something our listeners might be thinking?
Sure, what's up?
We've covered a lot, and it could feel like a lot to take in, For someone just starting with vocabulary, where do they even begin? What's step one?
Great question. I'd say the most important thing is pick one or two techniques that speak to you and actually try them consistently.
So don't try to do it all at once?
Nope. Choose one or two things that seem interesting, manageable, and try them for a week or two. See how it feels, if it fits into your life, if you see progress.
That's like a vocabulary experiment.
I like that. And if something doesn't work, no big deal, switch it up. Try different things until you find that perfect combo.
That takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect right away, it's about the journey.
And remember, learning is a lifelong thing, right? It's not about reaching the finish line, it's about growing and enjoying the process.
Okay, I am pumped to go on my vocab adventure. But before we totally wrap up, I want to go back to something we mentioned before. That whole making it fun thing. It's so important, right? If it's not fun, we won't do it.
Totally. It's like anything in life. If it feels like a chore, we'll put it off forever. But if we actually enjoy it, we make time for it, no problem.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to give our listeners a little challenge. Remember how that podcast told viewers to try one tip and let them know how it goes? Let's do that, but with a twist. Instead of just any tip, I want you to think, what one word have you always wanted to, conquer.
Ooh, I like that. It's like taking ownership of your vocabulary journey, right?
Exactly. And once you've got that word, think about which technique we talked about today would help you the most. Maybe it's a word that scares you, or you always mess up saying it, or even just a word you think is beautiful and you want to, really understand it.
I love that. Finding a word that sparks something in you makes you want to dig deeper.
And who knows, maybe mastering that one word will make you want to keep going, learning more and more,
That would be awesome.
So go out there and make those words yours.
Happy word hunting. It's like a treasure hunt, but for language.
Until next time, keep on diving deep.